Alrighty, let me get into this because we're gonna be here for a while. I know y'all gonna be feeling it. We gonna be here for a while. Okay. There's a couple things I'm gonna probably look to pull up here. So let's start with this. I think this is the best way to start. So much chaos, so much chaos. So let's start from the top here. That's the best way to do things. Yeah, okay. So we can start with this. And we're gonna have to go from there. Alright, uh-huh. That would be 2. And now we gotta go with the big boy. Oh, yeah, right afterwards. Doesn't even that long. Right afterwards. Let's see. Might have to look for that one. Obviously, it's a big deal. That'd be you. Oh, yeah, okay. We got. Oh, crap. Sorry, I'm just putting things together before we get started here because this is going to be a long one. So I got to make sure we put everything together. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Yeah, he was before Mike Evans. God, I know I saw it here. Oh, this is weird. Okay. You know what? Let me look a little bit more. He should. There it is. All right. Okay. Last but not least, there's 2 more. There's 2 more to bring up here, and then we'll be fine. We are getting ready to get started. There we go. And then there should be one more that I just saw. We'll go one by one to speak about this because day 1 was a very interesting day. Let me see. What the heck is it? What the heck? Hold on. Great, I'm gonna have to go to Tom. Give me a second, guys. I am almost done. Just gotta make sure I get this last one here. And then we can get started. So, there we go. Do we actually know what it is specifically, or? All right, I don't have the amounts here, but I will put it here. All right. All right. I have got my I have got the information I need. So we can get started. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, what is up? What is good? What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are okay, I'm not going to pretend that you guys enjoyed your day. I am sure Ravens flock is right now pissed off, emotional, hurt, lashing out. I'm sure there are plenty of people in the fan base that feel this way. At the same time, there's plenty of people in the fan base that understands this is the reality situation, and they're not tripping specifically because of what was lost. So it's not like I don't think Ravens fans as a whole are happy about everything that occurred today, but there are some that are panicking immediately and lashing out and doing what they usually do, go after EDC and call for his job and yada yada yada. And there are the fans, and there are the other group of fans that are looking at this and saying, well, it's not fun losing this player or that player, but I understand why this happened, and it's only day one of free agency. Plenty of time to figure this out. Let's see how this goes. So here we go. Let's see how this conversation is going to go. Because I just know it's going to be a very, very peaceful, rational type of situation here, right? I mean, who's going to look at this and be mad about what happened, right? Who's going to be mad about that? So, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. Day one, ladies and gentlemen, day one. Day one of free agency for the NFL season. And boy, was it a doozy. If you're looking at day one and only day one, the biggest losers, in my opinion, obviously being a biased Ravens fan, in my opinion, the biggest losers of free agency just based off of day one. It's the start of free agency. Plenty of free agents are still available. Moves can be made. Trades can still happen. But if we're just talking about what's happened in day one, doesn't matter how the end of this day goes. There may still be deals that are happening throughout the rest of the evening here. If we're just going off of day one, the biggest losers of free agency in day one is without question the Baltimore Ravens. This right here was an immense poaching of the Ravens players. So free agency kicked off right at 12 p.m. And from the get-go, these signings were firing. These trades were firing. Everybody was ready for free agency right off the bat. We had some big moves throughout the place. Obviously, a team like Kansas City getting Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker, going to Kansas City to fix their biggest issue offensively, not having a run game and having to over-rely on Mahomes to do everything. So now they've got their feature back, and they've got draft picks that they can use to add weapons to the offense. So yeah, don't be surprised when Kansas City's back next year. As long as Mahomes returns healthy, Kansas City is going to be the problem they've always been when he's under center. So yeah, teams were making big moves left, right, up, and down. But then you look at the Ravens. No question, if we're basing it off of day one, the Ravens are the biggest losers of free agency based off of day one because of the amount that they lost. Now, everybody knows the huge acquisition the Ravens got. They went out and traded 2 first-round picks to get Max Crosby. That's great. That's fantastic. Everybody's elated. Everybody's excited. That was awesome. That was awesome. That was fantastic. Cool. People celebrated throughout the weekend. Free agency hits today, and man, like I said, things were going by fast. And if you're a Ravens fan, you started to notice that something consistently was happening with these free agent signings. Now, the Ravens had a bunch of players hit free agency this year just because it matched up that a lot of their talented guys would just happen to be free agents at this time. It just worked out that way. Coincidentally, a lot of their talent just happened to be free agents this year. So, day one, a lot of talented Ravens players opening free agency. How do you think that was going to go? Well, let's put it like this. The first thing that happened was Draymond Jones, free agent Draymond Jones, signing a 3-year deal worth $39 million with the New England Patriots. That's the first Ravens notification we got of the day. This was literally 8 minutes, 12:08 p.m., 8 minutes after free agency officially began. Draymond Jones to the Patriots. Now, with this move, in all honesty, no Ravens fan flinched. Everyone knew that Draymond Jones wasn't going to return. He had played well enough to go earn himself a bag. Baltimore was not going to be able to match up with whatever anybody was going to give up for him. He played so well, he was going to get paid. So, Draymond Jones going to the Patriots, it's whatever. Nobody blinked an eye. Everyone wished him the best. Congrats, man. You absolutely deserve to get paid. All right, that's the first Ravens off the board. We knew he wasn't going to come back. It would have been cool if we could have got that done, but nobody's tripping over here. That happened 8 minutes after the start of free agency. Next up, right off the bat, a shot to the heart. Nearly an hour in to free agency, we all get the notification. Isaiah Likely signs a 3-year, $40 million deal with the New York Giants. I believe it, actually, I think it's what, about 12-ish a year, which actually can go up, let me see. So it's like a 13 million, it's like 13 point something million a year. 3-year deal, 40 million, about 13 million for each year. And there are some incentives that could potentially make it go up to about 15 million, but it's a pretty fair deal for Isaiah Likely. So right off the bat, less than an hour into free agency, Ravens flock got a shot in right to their heart, a shot right to their chest. Isaiah Likely to the Giants. So yeah, 13.3, pretty much that, 13.3, which could go up to around 15 a year because I think there's some incentives in that contract. So right off the bat, Isaiah Likely gets 13 million a year. And every Ravens fan is 100% heated about this because you could have just paid Isaiah Likely the 13 million. Now here's the thing. This amount is very similar to the amount Mark Andrews' deal is, even though Mark Andrews is a team-friendly deal and they can get out of it after a year, which no one wants to talk about. It is relatively the same if they choose to play all 3 years out for Mark Andrews. So with a deal like that, why not give it to Isaiah Likely? Well, here's the thing. They offered a similar deal, if not a little bit more money, to Isaiah Likely at the start of last offseason. They offered a deal like this to Isaiah Likely, and he denied it. His agent believed he could get more money in free agency. Come to find out, that wasn't really the case. But that's beside the point. Isaiah Likely spoke it clearly. At the end of the day, his focus was about being the number one. He got drafted to Baltimore. He was the number 2 tight end. He wanted to be the guy. He was showcasing the traits to be the guy. He wanted to be the number one. There's no way he could be the number 1 tight end in an offense with Mark Andrews. Even if they told him he was the number 1, you know he's not going to be viewed as the number 1 because Mark Andrews is right next to him. No matter how we feel about it, no matter how the fan base feel about it, he wouldn't be viewed as the number 1. He would always be second to Mark Andrews, even if Likely's getting more targets and more attention. Because Mark Andrews is Mark Andrews and what he's accomplished in his career and how he's viewed, Isaiah Likely would never be seen as the number 1 tight end if he stayed here. And since they offered that deal to Likely and he declined, and they offered a team-friendly deal to Mark Andrews and he accepted, Isaiah Likely's time in Baltimore was coming to an end sooner rather than later. Unless the Ravens were willing to overpay him massively, there was no way this was going to work out. And even if they overpaid him, there's a high chance he still doesn't take it because, again, he wanted to be the number 1 tight end. So when we got this notification, it hurt, but it was to be expected. However, him going to the Giants, let me tell you this right now. We all know John Harbaugh is an egotistical man. That is who he is. He has earned that right because of what he's accomplished. He's an egotistical coach. He's an egotistical coach. This is the guy that we talk about. Whenever you cross him, you get put in the doghouse. If you don't think he's petty enough to decide to pounce on former Ravens players, oh, you don't know who John Harbaugh is. I was at work, talking with my coworkers. We're watching this go down. I got one of my coworkers who's a Giants fan. Before this even came out, I was sitting there talking to him and saying, congratulations, man. I want to sit back and say, congratulations, you guys are getting Isaiah Likely. John Harbaugh's not going to miss out on taking Isaiah Likely. He's going to snatch him the second he can. I told him directly, Isaiah Likely's going to the Giants. I'm not even surprised. I'm not surprised at all. So when I saw the notification, it sucked to see that be the reality, but I wasn't shocked in the slightest. Now, the Isaiah Likely deal to the Giants didn't shock me. I was predicting that to be the case. What did shock me was the fact that Jordan Stout ended up joining him. This is what caught me off guard. I hadn't remembered that Jordan Stout was going to be a free agent. I didn't remember that. Jordan Stout was set to be a free agent. I completely forgot that. John Harbaugh, again, having a personal grudge against the team that fired him. Because he was fired, he didn't resign. It wasn't a Mike Tomlin thing where Mike Tomlin stepped down. He was told to hit the bricks. He was fired. If you don't think he holds a grudge against the Ravens, no matter what you hear him say in the media, that is an egotistical man. He's got pride. He absolutely holds a grudge against his organization for firing him in a situation where he believes he shouldn't have been fired. But again, he knows how to play the politician, so he'll sit back and act like everything's okay to the public. But I guarantee you, the anger is real. And moves like this proves the anger is real. Jordan Stout, 3-year deal worth $12.3 million. That makes him the highest paid punter in the NFL. That came out not long after Isaiah Likely was signed to the Giants. So not only did Harbaugh go and poach Isaiah Likely, he decided, listen, I'm the special teams guy. I'm taking Jordan Stout too. You don't deserve him. You don't got no special team guy there anymore. I was the head coach. My special teams was special teams. I'm taking Jordan Stout with me to the Giants. Insanity. Like I'm telling you, that is who John Harbaugh is. He would do something like this. I'm not shocked in the slightest that he would make a move like this. However, I legitimately, it did not cross my mind Stout was a free agent. And the second Harbaugh could get his hands on Stout, he took him. So now, this is probably what? An hour or so in to free agency. And Baltimore has already lost Isaiah Likely, one of their main offensive targets. Draymond Jones, who they weren't going to most likely bring back, but we have to mention that. And they lost their all-pro punter in Jordan Stout. Okay, not exactly looking great for the Ravens. 3 players already taken off. Interesting how a lot of people are coming after our players, but it is what it is. Moving on from there, next up, we were all sitting back. We were all waiting. The conversations were being had. The conversations were being made. What's going to happen? What is going to happen? What is going to happen with one Tyler Linderbaum? There were conversations that he was going to get paid massively. There were conversations that he was going to be paid massively. There were conversations that he would find a way to work out a deal with the Ravens. It was a back and forth discussion. Will the Ravens be able to get this done with Tyler Linderbaum and retain him? Or will they lose their Pro Bowl center? What is going to happen here? Oh my goodness. The conversations were high. The talks were long. And it got to a point where some felt the Ravens would get a deal done, and others felt a team like the Giants, a team like the Raiders, could potentially find a way to poach him. And speaking of the Raiders, a team that has $100+ million in cap space and is looking to rebuild, what do you think they're going to do? They are going to massively overpay for any top quality free agent. In fact, if you look at it today, based off of free agency, who won free agency? Technically, the Las Vegas Raiders. They've been signing everybody. But you expect that from a poverty team that has $100+ million in cap space. They're going to sign everybody to try to get themselves into contention within the next 2 years as they're rebuilding the team. So, the Las Vegas Raiders were going back and forth with the Baltimore Ravens when it came to the Tyler Linderbaum sweepstakes. And since the Las Vegas Raiders are willing to throw money at anyone and everything, and they don't care what they've got to give up to get that player, obviously the Ravens were dealing with a losing battle. And they ended up losing this battle. The biggest move of the day, or the biggest loss for the Ravens, this one hurts severely. Center Tyler Linderbaum signs a 3-year deal worth $81 million with the Las Vegas Raiders. Do you understand how insane this contract is? The Las Vegas Raiders just paid this man $27 million a year. They're paying a center. That is left tackle money. And they just paid a center $27 million a year. There was reports that came out later on that the Ravens were offering up to $22 million a year. There was a number that was thrown out, the highest they could go, 4 years, $88 million. That's $22 million a year. They could have potentially gone a little bit higher, maybe $22.5 million. But the fact of the matter is, Las Vegas threw $27 million a year for 3 years. And there was no way they could miss out on taking $27 million a year. You aren't even the best center in football. Creed Humphrey's the best center in football. But yet, despite that, some team is going to be crazy enough to offer you $27 million a year, and you don't think that center's going to take it? I mean, let's keep it a bean. Not everybody's focus. Not everybody's focus on winning a championship. We could talk about competing for a title and competing for Super Bowls. Bro, not everybody really care about that. And this is one of the things we got to really talk about when it comes to sport. Not everybody that gets into sports looking to win a championship. If you can do that, cool. Some of these people trying to get the bag, they want generational wealth. Centers don't get paid $27 million a year. So if I could get $22 million a year versus $27 million a year, what do you think I'm going to go for? If my mindset is I want to stay on a team to compete for a championship, I'll take less money. But if I'm just trying to get the bag, I'm just trying to get the bag. And this is why some of y'all as fans, y'all got to understand some of these players aren't in it to win a championship. Some of them just want to get the bag. They'll say the right things to the media. But if somebody's going to throw $100 million at you, are you not going to take it? If you're all about winning a championship and you're a competitor that wants to win a title, fine. Not everybody that gets into sports is trying to do that. Some of these people are doing this to change their lives and their family lives and their generation's lives. Not everybody looking to try to go win a championship. If it happens, cool. If you can get the bag and get the ring, nice. Some people are just in it for the check. You got to understand, they are playing, essentially, they're playing kids' games at a professional level. Not everybody's trying to win a ring. I'm telling you, not all these athletes care about what fans got to say. That's a massive overpay. Enjoy going to the Raiders, a rebuilding team to win 5 games. Okay, I'm finna live in Las Vegas with $27 million a year. You think I give a damn about winning a ring? That ain't paying my bills. There is the game aspect and there's the life aspect. This man is going to get paid $9 million more than the best center in football in Creed Humphrey. Why wouldn't he take it? Yeah, I'll go be the center for Mendoza. We can win 3 games next year. I wouldn't give a damn. I'm getting paid $27 million a year. Why do you think people were flocking to Miami at one point? You mean I could get paid what? Tyreek Hill left Kansas City, a place where he was guaranteed to compete for championships, to go chase the bag. in Miami. I get to live in Miami, South Beach, and get paid well? Who cares about rings? Some of y'all got to understand this. There are plenty of people that come into the sport looking to win a championship. They want to win a championship. They're focused on winning a championship. That's where their mindset is at. You got plenty of players like that in the league. And then you got players that just want to get the bag. If some GM's going to pay me 20, I'm a center. Centers don't get paid 20 plus million. But some organization's crazy enough to give me 27 million, and you think I'm gonna miss out on that just because I could go play in Baltimore and compete for a title potentially? Man, I'll take the 27 million. I'll go be the center for Mendoza. It don't matter to me. I'll live in Las Vegas with 27 million a year. Like, come on. Come on, man. Some of y'all gotta understand that some of these players are just in it for the bag. And I don't blame them. Like, you think I'm going to care if a bunch of random people on the internet are calling me a loser and saying, oh, bro, you're not a real competitor. You just want the money. You're not trying to compete for a championship. And so, you can keep running your mouth on the internet. I'm going to be chilling in my mansion with my $27 million a year. That's how some of these athletes think. That's why y'all got to understand, man, we as fans, we're passionate about this. We're passionate about the sports. We're passionate about the game. Understand, man, not every player is really caring about that. If I can go get $27 million a year as a center, that is unprecedented. You don't understand. This is seen as an outlier. I don't think this is resetting the market. This is seen as an outlier. I don't think teams are going to go from paying $18 million to now paying nearly $30 million a year for a center. This is right up there with the Deshaun Watson contract. You don't pay a center $27 million. That's left tackle money. You don't give a center that. And for a guy that's not even the best center in football, he's not the best center in football. Creed Humphrey is. And yet he's about to make $9 million more than Creed Humphrey. It happens, guys. It happens. If some team's desperate enough to go overpay for a player, sometimes a player will take it. Not everybody cares about rings. At the end of the day, what does a championship do for a center's legacy? When we talk about championships in football, it really only affects the quarterbacks for the most part. Like wide receivers, we don't judge wide receivers based off of championships. Maybe there's certain defensive players, like the legendary defensive players, we may try to add the conversation of a championship with them. But in the sport of football, the only time we really talk about championships is with the quarterback. They're the only ones that have their legacies on the line. As a quarterback, your legacy is being talked about. Your legacy is being discussed. Your legacy is the one on the line. What is a championship going to do for a center? I'm just being real. Like this aspect, you have fun going to be in Las Vegas instead of sticking with a team that could compete for a championship. And so, is a ring going to change this man's legacy at all? Like, I'm just saying, man. So, from Tyler Linderbaum's perspective, I can understand why he'd take $27 million. He shattered the market for centers. I can understand why he'd take $27 million over $22 million. I'd completely understand why. And guess what? 60 of that is guaranteed. 60 million of his 81 million is guaranteed. So at the very least, he's technically guaranteed at least 20 million for the next 3 years. And then the rest, maybe some incentive stuff. I think year 3 may be an injury incentive, depending on how things go. But again, 27 million a year to go play in Las Vegas, and I'm supposed to care about a championship? As if that's going to change my legacy as a center? Championships only in football, championships only matter to the quarterback. Ain't no ring going to change anything for Tyler Linderbaum. I'm being realistic here. Not every player really locked in and focused on winning a ring. So this whole situation with Tyler Linderbaum, which I'm sure some people will probably bring it up, but I think most Ravens fans understand that you're not paying a center $27 million. It sucks to see him go. It hurts because there's no real other option. The center situation isn't great. They're going to have to scramble. They'll probably have to draft their center, and they're going to have to scramble to get a replacement. So the Ravens are in a serious situation with their interior offensive line. But I understand why EDC didn't pay the man $27 million a year. You know, $27 million a year for a center? No. I understand. I cannot be mad at the Ravens for not budging there. I understand. You don't pay a center $27 million. The Raiders have over $100 million in cap space. They're throwing money around left and right. They signed like 8 players today. And they're just throwing money at these dudes. They got the cap space for it. You can't pay a center $27 million a year. So I understand why it puts the Ravens in a bad spot, but I understand why the Ravens couldn't give him that money, and I understand why Tyler Linderbaum took that money. That's the reality of the situation. The other person that's getting hurt and affected by this is Lamar Jackson. That hurts him. But Linderbaum, what's a ring gonna do for him? That's the unfortunate part about football. Because we've all made everybody does this in sports nowadays. Because legacies are tied to championships for the quarterback specifically, a bunch of other players, it really doesn't matter. Dude, TJ Watt's never won a playoff game. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer and one of the greatest defensive players to ever play this game. Who gives a damn? You think a ring is all of a sudden going to change the man's legacy? He's a pass rusher. Myles Garrett's going to rot in Cleveland. He's going to be one of the greatest defensive players we've ever seen and a first ballot Hall of Famer. He may never even come close to sniffing a Super Bowl because he's in Cleveland. That's not going to affect his legacy. That's not going to change his legacy. Championships only affect the quarterback. So if that's the case, why wouldn't I take the bag? It ain't going to affect my legacy. It'll affect the quarterback's legacy, but not mine. Because we've gotten to that aspect of only looking at the quarterback and everybody else doesn't matter when we talk about legacies and championships, why the hell would I, as a center, not take $27 million? Enjoy winning 5 games with the Raiders. Cool. I'll enjoy that $27 million too. My legacy's not affected whether or not I win a championship. You're just saying that because you lost out on this guy being in Baltimore. Now your quarterback and Lamar Jackson is in a compromised situation. Any Ravens fan that's saying that to Tyler Linderbaum, I understand it means virtually nothing. His legacy's not going to be affected by taking this money. We don't judge centers by championships. We don't. The person who's getting affected by this is Lamar, which is why you're lashing out. Because you're hurt, because now Lamar doesn't have his center. But, again, it is what it is. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. If this was a situation like basketball, is different. If we're talking about basketball, that's different because it's not just a position player where we just look at saying, okay, point guards, their legacies are affected by championships, but power forwards are not. No, in basketball, every player that steps on the court, if you're a superstar, your legacy's affected. You don't think Joel Embiid's legacy is affected? Please. A center in football, legacy is not affected. A center in basketball, especially if you're a superstar and the best player on your team, your legacy's certainly affected. So yeah, Linderbaum, he's not going to care about no legacy. He's not. He's not going to care about a legacy. He got $27 million a year. He could give a damn. Let him go to Las Vegas. If they win 3 games and if they win 3 games every single year, it's not going to matter. He still got the bag. The people that are actually affected is Lamar and the Ravens because now they got to figure this situation out with the center. But Tyler Linderbaum got the money. He shattered the market for what centers are supposed to get. He's the only center that's going to be paid left tackle money. He's going to be in Las Vegas for a few years. It's not really going to matter to him. In 3 years, he'll be out of there. So yeah, I understand why Linderbaum took the money, so I'm not mad at him for doing that. And I understand why EDC did not pay that man $27 million because he's not worth $27 million. That's insane to pay $27 million to a center, but whatever. So yeah, the Linderbaum situation sucks specifically because there's no real options at center for the Ravens. If this was an offseason where we're heading into free agency and there was an abundance of centers, nobody would care that Linderbaum's gone. Hit the bricks, dude. Who cares? But we don't have an option at center. Free agents, there's maybe 1 or 2 potentially centers that could be available. If the Ravens want a center, they might have to make a trade in this situation. Most likely, they're just going to have to draft another center and hope for the best. They got Bullock on the team, so Corey Bullock and whoever the hell they draft, those two are going to have to battle it out in training camp, and the best man's going to get the center position. So yeah, the Ravens are compromised because of that, but I understand why you don't pay him $27 million a year. It is what it is. So yeah, that was the biggest deal there. I'm sure we'll have more conversations about that as time goes on. But yeah, the biggest deal of the day, or the biggest blow to the Ravens, was the Tyler Linderbaum deal. But of course, things don't end there. After Tyler Linderbaum signed a deal, the next person to go in free agency was Charlie Kolar, who signs a 3-year, $24.3 million deal with the LA Chargers. Once again, the hardball strike. So John's taking our players, and then Jim's taking our players. Why not? Now, losing Charlie Kolar, it's tough, but again, it's not a situation where I think Charlie Kolar is a guy that can't be replaced. In all honesty, I haven't heard much of anything in regards to the Ravens trying to offer him a deal. I have no idea if they ever had an interest in bringing back Charlie Kolar. He's a good player, but I don't know if they actually threw a contract at him. I don't remember hearing any talks about Charlie Kolar being in contract talks with the Ravens. So I have no idea if they were ready to move off of him. But yeah, that is another player they're losing in the offense. So they're losing their tight end 2 and tight end 3 in this situation. Or if you want to say tight end 1 and tight end 3, however you look at it, the Ravens are losing 2 tight ends. So, to recap here for the most part, the Ravens lost Draymond Jones, who they weren't really looking to bring back, and we already knew he was going to get a bag. Isaiah Likely, which is a situation that, again, I explained it. They offered him a contract before the start of the offseason. They offered Likely a contract before the start of the season. His agent told him no, so they declined it. Agent was telling them he could get more in free agency. So they offered him a contract before they offered Andrews. Likely said no. They probably already knew they weren't going to re-sign Kolar. They didn't want to lose all 3 of their tight ends, so they gave a team-friendly deal to Mark Andrews. Keep that in mind. It's a team-friendly deal. Yes, it's 3 years, but they can get out of that contract after 1. It is a team-friendly deal that they wouldn't have given to Mark Andrews if Isaiah Likely would have said yes to the initial contract given to him, which is probably similar to the contract he got from the Giants because he didn't have a huge market, and his agent probably screwed a pooch on that one. He missed, so instead of trying to force something else, let's just take whatever the Giants gives us. Because $13 million, that's probably similar to what they already offered Isaiah Likely. He said no. Not to mention, I'm pretty sure he wanted to be the guy. And again, I want to be very clear. The Ravens they went to him first. They tried to get a deal done with him first, but he said no. So who they have to pivot to? They clearly, since I didn't hear anything about them going after Charlie Kolar, they were clearly ready to move off of Kolar. They didn't want to lose all 3 tight ends. The guy they wanted to pay said no. So what did they got to do? Pivot to the old guy in Mark Andrews and say, here, take a team-friendly deal. It's a 3-year deal, but really it's a 1-year deal. And they're most likely going to release him after 1 year. I'm just being honest. They're most likely going to release him after 1 year. Isaiah Likely said no to the initial deal. They pivoted to Andrews so they don't lose anybody. Well, they don't lose all 3 of their tight ends. And now we sit here and Isaiah Likely's a Giant and Kolar's a Charger. It happens. It is what it is. So yeah. You lose Draymond Jones, which again you were already going to lose. Isaiah Likely, that one hurts. Jordan Stout, shocker to me, but again, it's a punter. I'm not tripping. Tyler Linderbaum, the biggest one that hurts today. Charlie Kolar, like I just said. And then you end up losing just recently, which again, this is another one which is a nothing burger. But the Giants, because Harbaugh cannot stop dipping his toes into the Ravens' business, he's like, I want all of these guys. I want all of these guys. So John Harbaugh took Isaiah Likely. John Harbaugh took Jordan Stout. And then John Harbaugh again took another Ravens player. So the Giants are signing Ravens safety Ardarius Washington to a 1-year deal. Again, this is a nothing burger. I don't think Baltimore was bringing back Ardarius Washington. They tried to bring him. They brought him back last year on a 1-year deal, and he tore his Achilles in the offseason. He came back and played well, but again, is a guy that has an injury history already. He's already a smaller safety that, he plays physical and tough for his size, but he's a smaller safety with an injury history, and they weren't giving him a multi-year deal. He probably wasn't going to come back in the first place. So if we're really going to recap this, because I know everybody's shooting EDC right now, they're shooting him death stares, they're bringing him down. If we're looking at it, Baltimore lost Draymond Jones, who they weren't going to bring back in the first place because he was going to get a bag, and they weren't going to match that, and everybody was fine with that. Isaiah Likely, which again, they tried to work that out before the start of the offseason. They said no to the deal, got a similar deal from the Giants because they realized the market wasn't as big as they thought it would be, and they didn't want to lose any more money. So yeah, Ravens tried. He said no. They had to pivot to Mark Andrews. So they lost Isaiah Likely. They lost Jordan Stout, which is a punter, which, by the way, he had one great year, and the other 2 years were good, so I'm not really tripping over it. People weren't really connected like that with Jordan Stout, and again, he's a punter. You could find a replacement. And then 4, Tyler Linderbaum, which is the one that hurts the most today. And then 5 was Charlie Kolar. Again, it didn't even seem like they were interested in bringing him back. I heard no reports about them trying to sign him, so it is what it is. And then last but not least, Ardarius Washington, another player that they weren't looking to bring back. So in all honesty, if we're looking at Ardarius Washington, Charlie Kolar, and Draymond Jones, those were 3 guys they were already not planning to bring back. Draymond Jones was going to get a bag, so they weren't going to match whatever they were going to throw at him. And then Kolar, didn't hear any deals about him. Neither did I hear anything about Ardarius Washington. Those were 3 players that weren't going to return no matter what. It just sucks that one of them went to the Giants. And then, Charlie Kolar left. But, again, they weren't planning to sign Kolar. They weren't planning to sign Ardarius Washington. And Jordan Stout was a surprise. But, again, it's a punter. I'm not going to cry about that. And then Draymond Jones, again, we weren't expecting to sign him anyway. So really, the only thing that hurts from today is losing Isaiah Likely, a beloved player in Baltimore, a guy that's got the best hands on the team, and then losing Tyler Linderbaum, who is your Pro Bowl center. So the Linderbaum deal and the Tyler Linderbaum deal and the Isaiah Likely deal are the only 2 deals that really hurt Ravens flock today. Charlie Kolar is if you're a Kolar fan, that hurts you. But again, the Ravens didn't have an interest in bringing him back. Losing our punter in Stout, you can get another punter. No one's tripping over that. You weren't bringing back Ardarius Washington. You weren't bringing back Draymond Jones because he was going to get a bag. We appreciate what he did for us last year, but we knew we couldn't match what he would get in free agency. Yeah, again, the only thing to really talk about today is just losing Tyler Linderbaum and losing Isaiah Likely. And they had already tried with both these guys, and neither guy took the deal the Ravens offered them. The money Isaiah Likely got was probably eerily similar to the money they offered him last offseason when he rejected it and thought he could get more money. So what can you do about that? And Linderbaum, they offered him $22 million a year. He took $27. You're not paying a center $27 million. So yeah, today sucked. If we're going to talk about losers of free agency for day one, that's the Ravens. But when you look at it in perspective, it's not as bad as you really think it is. And it's not like the Ravens just sat on their thumbs and let all these guys go. A majority of them, they weren't going to re-sign anyway. They didn't care. The only ones that sucked was Likely, which again, they offered him a deal. He said no. So what? Move on. And then the other one was Linderbaum that they really wanted to keep, but the Raiders offered him $27 million. You're out at that point. You offered him 22, they offered him 27. He went with the money. There's nothing you can do about that. It is what it is. Shout out to Donovan Carter with the $2 donation. I'm wondering, can Minter steal from the Chargers? Probably if the Chargers got some free agents that they want to look to steal. I don't know who their free agents are. Obviously, one of their big free agents, which none of us wanted them back, Odafe Owe, he's going to the Commanders. Congratulations to him. Jesse Minter got that man paid. Hopefully, he does something in the nation's capital, but it is what it is. But yeah, if there's any player that they could look to get that's a free agent for the Chargers, they might look into that. I don't know. I really don't know. But I don't know the Chargers free agent situation. But yeah, I'm just watching all this go down. And I'm not going to lie. I was at work when these deals were going down. And I was definitely reacting to this. And it really sucked. I was emotional watching this because it's happening live. Not to mention, one of my coworkers is a Giants fan. And as I'm watching Isaiah Likely walk to the Giants, he's sitting there saying, hey, man, appreciate Isaiah Likely. It's all good. By the way, we also appreciate taking your punter, too. We could use a good punter. So, I'm watching this happen in real time at work. And I'm like, dude, this sucks. Why are they taking all our players? But again, in retrospect, it's fine. It's not as bad as you guys want to make it out. It's not as bad as you guys are trying to make it out to be. Because everybody they lost is still replaceable. Realistically, with the 2 tight end situation, we don't even know what Declan Doyle's offense is going to be. So do we know? Do we know what the situation is going to be involving their offense. We don't know what Declan Doyle's offense is going to be. So we have no idea how the tight ends are going to work within his offense. Based off of what we saw in Chicago, it's going to be a lot of 2 tight end sets, or a good chunk of 2 tight end sets that they're going to run. You already have one in Mark Andrews. You'll probably have to get another one. Here's the thing, though. If there's anything the Ravens have done a good job at, it's legitimately drafting tight ends. I mean, for God's sakes, the same draft that you got Isaiah Likely, you got Charlie Kolar. If there's anything the Ravens know how to do, is draft tight ends in that mid to late round range. And guess what? There's tight ends in this draft that are going to be in that mid to late round area that the Ravens will probably draft. You can make a bet right now the Ravens will use one of their draft picks, if not both, if they want 3 tight ends. They may end up drafting a tight end or 2. And chances are they're going to hit on whoever they draft. Because if there's anything the Ravens have been able to draft well, it's tight end. Can't draft a pass rusher to save their lives. But tight ends, we can draft all the tight ends in the world and it finds a way to work. Which is why losing those guys don't hurt, because they will find a way to draft a tight end in the 4th or 5th round. And it will work out because they somehow find these talented tight ends that work in their system. So it sucks losing Isaiah Likely. It sucks losing Charlie Kolar. But if the Ravens want to get the tight end situation figured out, they can just go cheap and draft them. And since they actually know how to draft tight ends, whoever they get in a draft that has some good tight ends that will be available in the later rounds, whoever they get, chances are they'll hit. And they'll be able to keep him there for the next 3 to 4 years. And won't pay them, and they'll be gone in like 5 years or so. So I'm not worried about the tight end situation, because the draft is where they're going to address the tight end situation. If you want them to take a desperate shot, David Njoku's available. But again, they'll just draft a tight end or 2 if they want to. And they usually hit on their drafts for tight ends. If there's any team that knows how to draft tight ends, it's the Baltimore Ravens. That's why EDC can feel comfortable, even though he wouldn't want that, because it looked like they really want Isaiah Likely back. He could still feel comfortable having both your tight ends walk in Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kolar, and still believe they can get those type of talents back in the draft. So when it comes to your tight end situation, it'll be addressed in the draft because they know how to draft tight ends. Can't draft a pass rusher to save their lives, but they can draft a tight end. Oh, Baltimore knows how to draft their tight ends. So they're not going to be worried about the tight end position come draft time, because they'll just figure that out there. The real concern for Baltimore is their interior offensive line. Now, there's some good offensive linemen that will be available in this draft, but I have no idea how the center situation looks in the draft, and they're most certainly going to have to draft a center. And even if they draft the center, it's not guaranteed to work out. At that point, you got to put your faith and hope in Dwayne Ledford being able to coach these guys up so well that they can deliver in year 1. And that's a big part of this. Because the Ravens have lost a lot of pieces, the coaching staff, they're going to have to really work hard to maximize the talent here. At least on the offensive side. Funny about it, everyone's speaking on the offensive side, which makes sense, because I feel like if there's any year the Ravens have to use their draft picks for the offensive side, this is the year. This needs to be an offensive-minded draft for the Ravens. Defensively, honestly, nobody's complaining about the defense. Assuming you get Nnamdi Madubuike back, you need one piece for the D line. Simple as that. For the defensive line, you need one piece. You can go get something from free agency, or you can draft one. And then, with the secondary, you just need a corner. Maybe you re-sign Chidobe Awuzie. He was great. You just need a corner, maybe 2. But you can get minimal value from the corner situation and the D-line situation. And if you want to be extra, maybe you look for that linebacker situation if we don't know, depending on how you feel about the Teddy Buchanan situation coming back from injury. But again, for the defense, there's not a lot they really need to spend on the defense. This year, EDC's got no excuses not to invest in the offense in this draft. This is the year. Those draft picks, you got to use them on multiple offensive linemen. You got to draft a center. You're going to have to draft a tight end or 2, and you're going to have to draft a receiver. Because keep this in mind, the Ravens' primary receivers at this point, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and Tez Walker. There is no D-Hop. He's a free agent. We don't know if they're going to re-sign him. Tyler Wallace is gone too. So when you look at the offense, they need receivers, they need tight ends, they need interior offensive linemen. You've got the picks to do this in this draft. You got more than enough on the defense. Yes, add another corner. Yes, maybe add one more piece to the D-line. And if you want to add, just to be sure, add a linebacker. But the defense is set. You got your set piece of Max Crosby from each level. You got Max Crosby. You got Roquan Smith, who's probably going to be on his final days here in Baltimore. Who knows? And in the secondary, you got Kyle Hamilton. You got your guy on all three levels. You ain't got nothing to worry about for the defense. Jesse Minter got that covered. Go fix this offensive line. Go draft the tight end. Go draft the receiver and get this offense back where it needs to be. That's the reality situation. So if we're just talking about day one, oh man, it was a very, very tough day one for Ravens flock. They obviously are the losers of day one of free agency. But it's not the end of the day for free agency. It's only day one. There are plenty of solid free agents still left. And there are trades that can still be made. Baltimore will have 10 draft picks after all. They want to use those picks to try to get somebody, they can. If not, use those picks to invest in the offense in this draft. This needs to be a heavily offensive draft for the Ravens. Simple as that. Now, with that being said, I am going to briefly check. One thing I'm trying to do through and through, is consistently check to see if there's any potential deals. If there's any potential deals or trades that are happening. Because obviously free agency is still happening. I don't know if it's just going to cut off at 8:42. There could be some late deals and late signings that happen. But I'm just looking to check this. Broncos inquiring about Romeo Doubs. The Titans have made a lot of signings today. So have the Raiders. I also hate to say this, but our AFC North combatants have made some pretty good moves in free agency. Cincinnati got some solid pieces on the defense to help. I think they got, a pass rusher or somebody for the D-line, and then they got a safety, I believe. They've got some secondary help and some help with that front seven. That is a good thing. You gotta be able to invest in that defense. I don't know how well that defense is gonna be for them next year, but at least investing in it. The Steelers, they traded for Pittman, which is crazy. And I think I just saw they also signed Rico Dowell. So they also signed Rico Dowell. The Steelers have made some interesting moves here. They've actually made some good moves to start off free agency. I think the Steelers are going to really have a good offense if they can just get the quarterback situation figured out. And push come to shove, they'll just see if A-Rod wants to do another year with Mike McCarthy. But the Steelers will be an interesting football team next year. You got your two receivers now, DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman, and then you're going to have that premier back in Rico Dowell that's going to play right next to Warren. I mean, that offense could be something interesting. They got some nice pieces in Pittsburgh from an offensive standpoint. Quarterback situation is always going to be problematic for them, especially because they just have to sign old veteran guys, and they haven't been great at drafting quarterbacks. And this isn't even a draft the way you're going to really lean on drafting quarterbacks. It's Mendoza and whoever, pretty much, for the most part. But, the Steelers are making some good moves, and the Bengals have made some good moves to add to their defense. But that's beside the point. For the Ravens, lost a lot of guys. However, they did make some good moves, right? I mean, I'm going to say make some good, but they made some moves. Number one, they did bring back, obviously, I think they did that, yesterday? They did bring back quarterback Tyler Huntley. So they signed Tyler Huntley to a 2-year deal. He's going to be here for the next 2 years, being the backup quarterback for Lamar Jackson. That's a great move, obviously, because you need to have a backup for Lamar Jackson. And if there's anyone that fits that description perfectly, it's obviously going to be Tyler Huntley. Glad to have him back. Straight up glad to have him back. The other move the Ravens made left a lot of fans very, very disappointed. So obviously the Ravens need offensive line help, and they have to get that situated as quickly as possible. So the Ravens actually did make a signing today. They signed offensive lineman John Simpson to a 3-year, $30 million deal. I want to say this right now. John Simpson is a good offensive lineman. Obviously, if you guys remember, he was here a few years back in 2023. He was part of that offensive line, and he did a good job. The 2023 offensive line has been the best offensive line we've had in the last few years, and he did a pretty good job. Now, one thing that he has an issue with is committing penalties, which is annoying. Funny enough, the spot that he'll probably take, which is left guard, Patrick McCarry used to take that spot, and he used to have a bunch of penalties. So it's basically adding a 1-to-1 there. So Simpson's a good offensive lineman. We remember him during the 2023 season. He's a good offensive lineman. He can block. He's solid. Obviously, it's a massive upgrade over what do you want to put him on the left side? It's a massive upgrade over Voorhees, or you want to put him on the right side? It's a massive upgrade over Daniel Faalele. But this isn't a major move. This isn't like an elite offensive lineman. This isn't a full-on stud. This is a solid offensive lineman that can do the very basics of the job. If we're bringing back Simpson, funny enough, if they really want to do that, they could actually decide, hey, Kevin Zeitler, you want to come back too? Because Kevin Zeitler is a free agent. Do you understand how bad of a look it would be for EDC if he signs both Simpson and Zeitler? That would basically be him admitting, hey, you know what? I was very wrong. I was incredibly wrong for getting rid of both those guys after the AFC Championship game. Both those guys, especially Zeitler. Zeitler was a stud, but he was an older player. Simpson was good, but he was an older player. He moved off of Zeitler and Simpson for Faalele and Voorhees. Let's go young. And it blew up in his face. So somehow Kevin Zeitler ends up back as a Raven. It will essentially be EDC saying, I was wrong for moving off of both of you. I'm bringing you back right now as I try to figure out this situation and reevaluate how I'm going to fix this offensive line with some younger talent. I was wrong to move off of you guys when I did. Because essentially, what's the point? If he brings back Kevin Zeitler, he would basically be admitting he shouldn't have got rid of him after the 23 AFC title game. And the funny thing about it is, many of us said he shouldn't have done that because we didn't have an option. I sat back and said, you know what? I didn't like it, but if EDC wants to do this, he must have a plan at offensive line. Maybe he's looking to go young. Maybe he's got some studs that he thinks could do the job. He did have some studs that he thought that could do the job. Their names were Voorhees and Faalele. He got rid of Simpson and Zeitler for Voorhees and Faalele, and it blew up in his face. So now he has to crawl his way back to the guys that were doing their job in 2023. Was Lamar getting touched in 2023? Last time I checked, he won MVP. We went to the AFC title game. The offensive line wasn't the problem. They were doing their job. Were they perfect? No, but they were good. Better than anything we've had the last 2 years. You moved off of two good pieces to put these two young players in that stunk up the joint. And now 2 years later, after moving off of them, you want to bring these guys back? Nah. He brought back Simpson. I'm really watching because I don't know if they fully believe Emory Jones is ready for that role. He might try to go after Kevin Zeitler. And I promise you, if he goes after Kevin Zeitler, we're going to be here live streaming this. And I'm going to tell it EDC admits to his faults on the O-line. Because there's no way you moved off of those two guys after the AFC Championship game. And here you are, 2-3 years later, saying, I was wrong. I shouldn't have moved off of you two. Welcome back to the fold. There's no way you can do that. If Linderbaum was still here and you brought Zeitler back, the offensive line would have been the exact same except for Rosengarten that we had in 2023. That would have been the exact same every position except right tackle. I don't know if they're going to bring back Kevin Zeitler, but I promise you I'll be monitoring that. If he brings back Kevin Zeitler, he would basically be admitting he was completely wrong in getting rid of those two guys at the end of the championship game. He let both those guys walk into free agency. And his plans to replace them were Voorhees and Faalele, and it blew up in his face. So you bring them back a few years later and say, hey, I was wrong. Shouldn't have moved off of you. It's not going to be a good look. So, yeah. Ravens give Simpson a 3-year, $30 million year, paying $10 million a year for a guy that you chose to move off of 3 years ago, when you probably shouldn't have moved off him. But, you know, it is what it is at the end of the day, right? Funny thing about it is, I would still take Kevin Zeitler back. I mean, Zeitler was good. I would take him back in a minute. I know what he's capable of. He still can play at a really good level. So I'm not saying it'd be a bad idea to bring Zeitler back. It'd be a great idea, especially you get more competition with the guards. You still continue to see what Emory Jones can do, continue to develop him. I'm fine with that. I'm just saying if he brought Zeitler back, I'm calling out EDC because he chose to move off those two guys when everybody said you probably shouldn't do that. And some of us tried to give him the benefit of the doubt and said he's moving off of them because he wants to go young. He must have a plan. We saw your plan. It failed. And now you bring those two guys back into the locker room after you told them to not kick rocks. You told them have fun in free agency. They were doing their jobs in 2023. You told them have fun in free agency. You moved off of them. 3 years later, they're back. Nah. Can't bring them back. You bring Zeitler back, I'm calling it out. But yeah, I wouldn't mind if you bring back Kevin Zeitler. That would be a good move to add to the offensive line. Would not mind. But again, I would hope Ravens Flock would call this man out for choosing to move off of these guys after the 23 AFC Championship game just to turn back and bring them back a few years later. That's all I got to say. Give me a second here, guys. I got to go answer this. All right. Ah, man. Oh, my goodness, man. But, yeah, but, yeah, they got to figure out the situation with the offensive line, man. They're gonna, what do they choose to sign some veterans, or what do they choose to address in the draft? Honestly, I'd recommend both. I think what the Ravens should do is sign some veterans and draft some players. Obviously, sign some veteran offensive linemen, and then draft some interior offensive linemen because you're gonna need to develop them. And then you go into camp and you let them battle it out. Whoever does the best and performs the best and is the more consistent one would ultimately win the job. That's for left guard, for right guard, and for center. So I think that's what you should do. Your interior offensive line needs to be fixed from top to bottom. You should address it both with free agency and in the draft so that you can have a good mix of players for those positions that can battle it out. I trust in Dwayne Ledford to find the best possible candidates of the individuals we can give him. He will find the best, and he will maximize whoever takes that spot. I just think that's the best way the Ravens can go about this. You lost Tyler Linderbaum, nothing you can do about that. He went to Vegas. You have to be able to pivot. As for the tight end situation, you could draft tight ends. The Ravens have a history of drafting great tight ends. I'm not concerned about that. You'll probably also have to draft a wide receiver as well, but you can also get a wide receiver in free agency because there are some guys that you could look to go get. Obviously, you know, if you see Romeo Doubs, he's still available. Brian Thomas Jr., the Jaguars are interested in potentially trading him and are listening to offers. I would try to be on that one. The Ravens have opportunities to go get a veteran wide receiver. If they want to bring back D-Hop, this is the time to bring back D-Hop. So if they want to do that, cool. But, you know, the Ravens have to make sure they add weapons to this team because now when you look at it, they only got 4 weapons. Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, Tez Walker. That's pretty much all they got left. And they're going to have to fill that out with at least a couple more players to make sure they are good to go come September. So they'll be doing that via the draft and via free agency, and hopefully they're able to put together a solid unit. And that's pretty much it. That is all I have for you guys today for day 1 of free agency. Not much to really speak on because, again, it's not the Ravens making moves, it's the Ravens losing players. And I'm not going to speak on what that player can do for the team. I'm not going to talk about what Isaiah Likely and Jordan Stout's going to do for the Giants. I'm not interested in talking about what Linderbaum can do for Mendoza and the Raiders. I'm not interested in talking about that. That's for those fan bases to talk about. Oh, what is Isaiah Likely going to do for us? Well, that means we can get rid of this guy and have him be tight end. That's not my prerogative. I don't care about what Isaiah Likely does for you know, the Giants. I just wanted to report on the fact that we did lose these guys. Where do we go from here? Well, it's only day 1. There's still plenty of other free agents they can sign. Like I said, for the tight end situation, they can just draft. The Ravens have a history of drafting great tight ends. They'll probably be drafting 1 or 2 in the 5th round. So they'll draft tight ends. The tight end situation is going to be fine. They'll just draft new tight ends. If there's anything the Ravens know how to do is draft tight ends. They can't draft the pass rusher to save their lives, but they'll draft the tight end. Or 2 if they feel the need to. So the tight end situation is going to be fine. They'll just draft. For the wide receiver situation, they're going to sign a receiver in free agency. They'll probably also draft a wide receiver in one of the later rounds too. So they may draft the wide receiver, but they will definitely address the wide receiver aspect via free agency. So that's what they do from that point. And then next up, in terms of the interior offensive line with the left and right guard and center position, the best they can do is address it both the draft and free agency. So what I think the Ravens should do is sign some veteran interior offensive linemen, sign a veteran center, and then you go into the draft, you draft the center, you draft some interior offensive linemen so you can have depth at that position, and then you go into camp and you let Dwayne Ledford and his offensive line staff have these guys go through training camp and figure out who is best fit for what roles. Whoever wins the starting job gets to be the starter. Simple as that. So, again, interior offensive line, address it through the draft and through free agency. Wide receiver, address it through free agency. Tight end, address it through the draft. Big name wide receiver free agency or just a guy. It would be good if they could get a big name wide receiver. Again, the Jaguars are willing to trade Brian Thomas Jr., so I think the Ravens should be involved in that one. Romeo Dobbs obviously is one that is still available. They could look to do so. There are a couple decent name receivers in free agency. Obviously, Mike Evans was the big name out of all big names, but he's not the only big name that is here. So you could go for one of those big name guys. If you want to bring back DeAndre Hopkins, you can still bring back DeAndre Hopkins. I just think they're going to address the wide receiver situation via the draft and free agency. Get that big name wide receiver in free agency because you want a veteran receiver. The Ravens always love to go into season with at least one veteran receiver, so they're going to get that big name receiver in free agency. That's going to be that veteran piece, and then they're going to draft a wide receiver in like the 4th or 5th round because that's usually how they do things. So they'll address receiver via the draft and free agency. They'll address the tight end situation via the draft. They should address the interior offensive line situation via the draft and free agency. And that's how you fix the issues with the offense. You do those things, which is what I assume EDC is going to do, which is why I'm not here to grade or assess what EDC and the Ravens have done in day one in terms of the amount of players they've lost. I'm not assessing this team until after the draft. When the draft is over, by then free agency, a lot of the people that are available in free agency would be relatively gone. Any major trades that need to happen would have already happened. So I'm not going to be too keen on free agency after the draft. But once the draft's been made, we'll have a better assessment of what this team's going to be. And from that point, we can assess EDC. So that's just how I look at it for the most part. So yeah, wide receiver, address it through the draft and free agency. Tight end, address it through the draft. Interior offensive line, address it through the draft and free agency. You do those things, you should be in a good position to at least get some quality players, and then you hope that, you hope that it works out, and you hope the coaches can coach these guys up to a highly competitive level. That's just the hope. Don't know if that's what's ultimately going to happen. But we'll just have to see how things go. Anyway, that is pretty much it for me today. I want to take a look at some of these comments. I was already starting to read them, but I want to take a look at more of these comments and see how some of y'all are feeling about some of this stuff. Yeah, sad day, man. Today was rough. I know a lot of Ravens fans are not happy with how things are going. This is terrible. It sucks losing all those players, but the majority of those players they weren't bringing back, and the 2 players we wanted back, they tried to get Likely back. He didn't take the deal before the season. They had to pivot to Mark Andrews, and Tyler Linderbaum took $27 million. Nothing you can do about that. John Simpson sucks. He's solid, which is better than Farlele, but it doesn't solve your offensive line issues. I'm not tripping about Lindy. Most people aren't. So it is what it is. Yeah, you're not paying a center that type of money. It's just crazy. We lost our best center. EDC said, bet, let me get one of the worst guards in the league. He's not, I don't know. I guess he really had a poor year last year, but for the most part, he's a solid offensive lineman. I just would have preferred, not bringing John Simpson back, but again, he's still a decent offensive lineman. He can still do the job. He's better than Farlele and Voorhees. He's still productive, but again, I'm still not really keen on getting Simpson. I don't think that majorly changes much of anything. But it is what it is. That's why I think they need to address interior offensive line, do free agency and the draft, which hopefully EDC will do. Isaiah Likely should fire his agent. Well, he still got paid, so I don't think he's going to fire his agent. Linderbaum is not $9 million better than Creed Humphrey. Linderbaum was always overrated. Yeah, but he got paid, so it really don't matter to him. What's good, Jeremiah? Ain't no way Lindy almost $10 million better than Creed. He's not, but that's what the Raiders offered him, and he took it. I don't want to get any more defense. Just focus. needs to be on offense. Yeah, they could address a lot of issues on the offense still in free agency as well as the draft. I think the draft needs to be offensive minded. It needs to be a heavily offensive minded draft, but that doesn't mean they still don't have to add pieces to the defense. It just has to be smaller pieces. Like add one piece to the D line and maybe add a corner or two, and that's really it. But the focus will have to be on retooling and refixing this offensive line and dealing with the tight end and wide receiver situation, which they, again, will look to address that in the draft for the most part. But we'll see. It's always EDC's fault for not accepting Linderbaum's fifth-year option. Wasn't his fifth-year option going to be $27 million? Or maybe it was going to be closer. I think his fifth-year option, because his fifth-year option was actually going to be closer to what he got, and they could not validate giving him that type of money, which it is what it is. I understand why. It sucks that we're in this situation, though. Ravens hurting now. It's tough. It's tough to see this, but again, we're going to see. EDC knows he's on the hot seat, so we're going to see. We are going to see what he puts together. We're going to see what he puts together. With a tag likely, the Ravens weren't interested in using their tag, and I don't even know how much they would have had to pay likely to tag him. What's going on, Daniel? When the players like the GM, they will take a pay cut for the team. Some players do, not everybody. I'm keeping it real. What's good, fam? I just got here. What's your thoughts on what EDC is going to do with that offensive line? Yeah, my thoughts is that he's going to have to try to retool this offensive line via the draft and free agency. So he's going to have to go get some veteran interior offensive linemen who are available in free agency. I think there's a center or two who is available in free agency that he can go get. And then from there, you draft interior offensive linemen and you draft a center. And then you go into training camp and have a competition between the veterans and the guys you just drafted and see who can win the starting job. I'll let Dwayne Ledford decide who should start and who should be the backup. That's just how I feel they should fix the offensive line. You get a mix of veterans and draft players. So you do that, and then you let them go into training camp and compete for the starting job. That's just how I look at it. John took Likely as a parting gift. He took Likely, he took Stout, and he took Ardarius Washington as some parting gifts. So it is what it is. Bro's career is actually done. I doubt it. He's still going to get paid after 3 years. Cushenberry? I mean, they could. Hold on, let me see. Is he a free agent? If he's still a free agent, they might go after him if he's still a free agent. Let's see. Yeah, I think he's still a free agent. I don't think anyone signed him. I'd have to go check that, but who knows? Who knows? We have an elite offensive lineman coach. Yes, we do, which is why I think you can draft interior offensive linemen and also bring in veterans and let Dwayne Ledford figure out who should start and who should be the backup. Andrews is the only tight end. Yep, he is the only tight end, but that won't be for long because they'll draft another tight end or two. Andrews on the decline, should have kept the younger guy. They tried to sign him, Likely said no. And that's the thing. I know we like to get on these front offices people's heads, but if you offer a contract to somebody and they say no, what do you expect them to do? They tried to work this out before the offseason. Likely's camp kept saying no. So they had no choice but to pivot to Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews probably wasn't the plan. They really wanted Likely. He said no. Nothing you can do about it. No matter what you throw at them, if the player says no, there's nothing you can do about it when it comes to contracts. It is what it is. Yeah, $27 million is insanity here. Yeah, bringing back John Simpson again. He's a solid offensive lineman. I would rather have some. Yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. They're going to have to fix the offensive line however they want to go about it. We'll see how things go. All we need is a center and a right guard. We good. Don't care about tight ends. Well, in Declan Doyle's system that he was assisting in when he was in Chicago under Ben Johnson's system, they used a lot of two tight end sets, so they're going to have to draft another tight end to make it work. Mark Andrews will not be the only tight end on this football team. They're gonna draft another tight end, so we'll just have to see what happens with that. Likely overrated, who cares? A lot of people that are hurt that Isaiah Likely's gone. So I mean, you may not care. You may be fine with him being gone, but a lot of people definitely have a lot of love for Isaiah Likely, especially because he was a guy that made clutch catches in clutch moments and has actually scored in the touchdown, unlike Mark Andrews. By the way, fun fact of the day: Kamar Aiken has more playoff touchdowns than Mark Andrews. That is your fun fact of the day. We need to replace him along with getting a wide receiver. EDC has to hit on everything in the draft. He has to hit, man. He has to hit. He's on the hot seat. He has to hit, man. He absolutely has to hit. If you don't care about tight ends, then why sign a guy who lost you 2 playoff games and can't catch or block? Again, that wasn't my choice. I didn't choose to have Mark Andrews sign that. That's not a question that really fits for anybody that doesn't care about tight ends. Again, we don't control who gets signed. So you could not care about tight ends. If the team wanted him, they signed him. There's nothing you can do about it. Like we don't control who gets to be on the roster. If that was the case, a lot of these guys would be gone. Keaton Mitchell will probably be gone too. Yeah, he's going to be a free agent as well, so they're going to lose Keaton Mitchell, which means they're just going to go with Henry and Hill as their main 2 backs, and Rashid Ali will be RB3 in case they do need him. But, yeah, obviously Derrick Henry's Derrick Henry, but they're keeping, Justice Hill because of his versatility, his ability to pass block, his ability to catch out the backfield, his speed, because he does have some speed and he can run the ball well, or at least solid. So, again, he does a multitude of things as opposed to Keaton Mitchell, who doesn't catch out of the backfield and doesn't block. So, yeah. It's looking like an offensive rebuild. Hey, man, if this is, you got a new regime, you got a new offensive coordinator, maybe this is something they've been looking to do. Who knows? Interested to see how things go. Center should be number 1. Yep, and they should look to get that situation figured out as quickly as possible. But, we'll see how things go. We will see how things go. Yeah, Pittman was traded to the Steelers. Good for them. They got a good 1-2 punch in DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman. EDC has some work to do with building the offensive line. He's got a lot of work to do when it comes to building the offensive line. Dobbs or Brian Thomas will be good additions, in my opinion. Hopefully you can get one, but we'll have to see how things go. Deebo Samuel makes more sense in free agency, and Kenyon Sadiq at tight end in the draft. I could see a Deebo Samuel as well, but I don't know what the Ravens want in totality, but we'll see. Brian Thomas Jr. makes more sense. I would take Romeo Doubs to Cleveland. I honestly think they just need to get a veteran receiver. I don't care who it is, a big-name receiver. And no, I'm not interested in getting Stephon Diggs, so I know that's probably where they're going to pivot, but I'm personally not interested in getting Stephon Diggs. Max Crosby was a good start still. I mean, yeah, it basically solidified your main issues that you had on defense, which is why you can lean more towards fixing the offensive line. Go get Elton Jenkins and Vera Tucker. Jenkins did play center, but he's more of a what's it called? A guard than a center. So he's a hybrid, but he's more of a guard than a center. I wouldn't mind us going after Kyle Pitts or Juwan Jennings. Again, there are some names in free agency that they could go after, and I'm pretty sure Kyle Pitts is he a free agent? I thought they used the tag on him, so I don't know if Kyle Pitts is available. Pretty sure they used a tag on him. Mark Andrews and Kenyon Sadiq, double set tight end offense. Who knows? Tyler Linderbaum and Likely, I expected to be gone. Not surprised, but I am surprised we lost the punter, which is not a big deal. I was hoping to get Washington back, but business is business, not worried. Yeah, I was just like you. I was expecting Linderbaum and Likely to be gone. I expected them to go chase after the money, and I didn't expect Ardarius Washington to come back. That's just me. It would have been nice to bring him back, but I didn't expect him to bring him back after his injury history. But yeah, the Jordan Stout signing completely fooled me. I was lost with that one. I didn't even remember that he was a free agent. That definitely shocked me. I think we need somebody like Juwan. He's the type of receiver we've been needing, and he won't be expensive. Well, hopefully they look to go get him. Did you see the drama between Marlowe and Kyle Hamilton? I think because somebody brought, I know what you're talking about. Someone brought up how Kyle Hamilton, whenever players are gone, by the way, congrats to J.K. Dobbins, signs a 2-year, $20 million deal with the Broncos. Good for him. Hopefully he comes back healthy and ready to go. But, what's it called? Oh, yeah. Someone posted something about how Kyle Hamilton, I guess on his Instagram page, always has posts or stories where he posts him saying goodbye to former Ravens players, but we never see him post about the players the Ravens sign. So, someone mentioned that, and I think Marlon Humphrey, had a comment in regards to that. I don't know if Kyle Hamilton responded to that. I'm not interested in getting back and forth with that. And of course the Giants are interested in Brian Thomas Jr. Man, can the Ravens please not lose out to these people? Please, can you not just stand on your thumbs? If you actually go get a receiver in free agency, you make things easier for yourself in the draft when you can just focus on the offensive line. But, it is what it is, man. It's just the Ravens, man. At the end of the day, I'm working off of the mindset that EDC knows his job's on the line. And if he puts together something poor and it doesn't work out, I just hope he's ready to hit the bricks. That's all I'm saying. My mindset is, EDC, you're on the hot seat. If this doesn't work out, you're going to be fired, right? That's just it. Steve's not playing around. If he can fire Harbaugh, your job's not safe either. It's not even just about the Brian Thomas Jr., bro. There's people talking about trying to get Juwan Jennings. There's some talks about trying to get Romeo Doubs. I think the Broncos are interested in that. Bro, I haven't seen the Ravens could be connected to one of these receivers yet. Can they go do something? It's day one, though. That's the funny thing. It's day one, and if you know how the Ravens operate, they never make major moves in day one of free agency. In fact, the first week of free agency, Baltimore doesn't really make a lot of moves. So I will not be surprised if it's radio silence throughout this entire first week of free agency, because that's just how the Ravens operate. Really funny to see how nobody signed Trey Hendrickson. It really is funny to see that. But anyway, guys, that is pretty much all I've got for you for day one of free agency. Somehow I feel I will be back. Yeah, I keep forgetting about Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, he's still available. Or, someone may try to go get him. I think maybe he's available for a trade. The Niners may be looking to move off of him. Especially now that they got Mike Evans. He don't need to be here anymore. But, yeah, that is pretty much all I've got for you today. We will probably be back tomorrow because it's going to be day 2 of free agency. And the Ravens are probably going to lose even more players. Or maybe the Ravens may make a move that would actually work in our favor and allow me to sit here and speak in positive news. Obviously, the Max Crosby move was fantastic. An anonymous team offered 6 first-round picks for Myles Garrett. Is there a report in regards to that? Hold on for a second. That might just be a made-up report. Let me actually check that. I don't see anything here about Myles Garrett. Let's see here. Who reported that? Was there a report or some sort of rumor? I don't see anything. I don't see anything about them choosing to try to give up to 6 first-round picks for Myles Garrett. I don't know about that, but I don't know about that 6 first-round pick thing. We stay neglecting the offense. Look at this offensive line. It's gotten worse now. If there's any year to have an offensive-minded draft, this is the year. They got to fix this. And if EDC doesn't fix this, he can hit the bricks. If he knows his job's on the hot seat, he better get to work and quickly. But, it is what it is. With that being said, guys, I am going to call it a night here. I am going to head on out. I'm going to relax for the rest of the day. Finna chill out. I got work tomorrow, so I don't want to be here too long. And again, it's day one of free agency. And somehow I just feel like I'll be right back here tomorrow for day 2 of free agency, just because some craziness could happen if all the Ravens. If nothing happens with the Ravens tomorrow, I ain't got to stream. But if the Ravens make a big move, or we lose somebody that we wanted to keep and we lose them badly, yeah, we'll be bad. We'll be back here tomorrow to talk about that. But we'll see. Hopefully I'm not back here tomorrow unless it's good news. But it is what it is. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for pulling up to the stream today. This has been day 1 of the free agency period. The deals that have been made today will not be officially signed until Wednesday. Now, I will say this. No matter what, I will probably stream on Wednesday, because Wednesday is when everything opens up. Officially, free agency officially opens up. Teams can sign their players can sign their contracts to their new teams, and the players got traded. The players that got traded to a new team, they can officially have those be solidified. Here's the thing. It is 9:21 p.m. March 9th, Monday evening. Wednesday, March 11th, 4 p.m. is when everything opens up. Between now and then, we need to hear a Lamar Jackson extension. They actively won't be able to make the moves they made, the signings they made, that won't be able to go through if the Lamar Jackson extension is not done. So I'm expecting to get a report between now and Wednesday that a Lamar Jackson extension has been done, so they can free up the cap space. If an extension is not done, we will be sitting here discussing it and talking about why an extension has not been completed. And we will look at EDC, we will look at Lamar, and we will try to have a conversation as to why that's not done. My assumption is you don't make the trade for Max Crosby, and you don't make the signings you've made if a deal hasn't been done. They're just waiting to announce it. But if we don't get an announcement that it's been done, conversations will have to be made about why the extension has not gotten done. But that's a different conversation that we will be potentially having on Wednesday. So we'll see what happens. With that being said, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. And with that being said, I will most likely see you tomorrow for more free agency craziness. If not, we'll be here on Wednesday to talk about the Ravens situation even more. With that being said, that is all I've got. And I'm out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to stay safe. And peace out. Good night, everybody.